everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Stasia and I've recently lost almost 50 pounds in the last 7 months, 47 pounds to be exact. And today's video, I'm going to be talking about my 10 daily habits that I do pretty much every single day that has helped me to lose that weight. So in case you're new to my channel, just 7 months ago, I used to look like this. And by doing the things that I'm going to be discussing in today's video, now today I look like this. So trust me when I tell you that these efforts do make a difference. I struggled for years following a plant-based diet without the weight ever budging, and in some cases my weight had even went up. So I know what it means to struggle to get the weight off, but you can be confident that the things that I share on my channel, the food that I've been eating, the changes that I've made, actually work because it's coming from someone who struggled and it worked. With that being said, if you are interested in finding out exactly what I was eating to get this 50 pounds off, then right now all of my weight loss recipe ebooks are on sale for only $5 to the first 25 people by the time I release this video. So my most recent weight loss recipe ebook is basically like a blueprint to how I got the weight off. That recipe ebook includes absolutely no overt fats, nuts, seeds, avocados, oils, breads, pastas, but believe me, there's still a lot of things that it does include, with some really super easy, delicious recipes that I was eating, I'm still eating, to get the weight off. That recipe ebook also includes 7 days of my fiber protein shakes with flavors like birthday cake, Snickers, Reese's Pieces Buttercup, and these shakes have been a tremendous part in my weight loss, and they still are. They keep you full, like really, really full, and they taste really, really good. So anyways, if you'd like to check out any of my weight loss recipe ebooks, then try to be one of the first 25 people because it's really cost effective that way. It's only $5. So the link is in the description box below if you want to check them out. All right, so let's get into this video. So the first thing that I did and that I still do is to eliminate those overt fats. So for those of you who are following me, then you already know that that's kind of the number one thing I did to get the weight to shift. I don't eat any overt fats, which include things like oils, nuts, seeds, avocado, or any other higher fat plant-based foods. So in case this is the first time that you're landing on one of my videos and you don't really know my backstory, this is kind of something that I just stumbled into because of health issues I was having with my gallbladder. So I was just trying to get my gallbladder to calm down and decided that, enough is enough, and I was going to really, really restrict my overt fats. Well, as a result, my gallbladder did calm down. And in addition to that, my weight loss finally started to happen. So I actually lost 20 pounds within those first 8 weeks by doing that. And those 20 pounds were completely effortless. Like, it still blows my mind how the weight just melted off of me once I got rid of those overt fats. Now, again, I want to preface this video with saying that this is just what has worked for me. It's kept my gallbladder happy, it's getting the weight off, and I feel great doing it. So that's not to say that that's going to work for you or work for everybody. I'm a firm believer in figuring out what works for you, and this has finally been what's worked for me. Now, what I would suggest is that even if you don't fully eliminate the overt fats, try even reducing them if you're struggling to get the weight off. Because what I found by eliminating them altogether was that it really put me in a calorie deficit that I just wasn't in all the previous years. So I was eating plant-based, I was eating whole food, I was probably eating too much. And then when I added those overt fats in the way of my sauces, my dressings that were nut-based or seed-based, as well as I loved avocado toast or even just avocado right in my salads and stuff like that, I was consuming too many calories when I was including those overt fats in my diet. And it seems that as soon as I eliminated them, that all of a sudden I was still eating a very large amount of food, but I was now in a calorie deficit, which allowed me to get the weight off. So it's something that I do every day. I cook all my meals using no oil, no overt fats, and believe me when I tell you, it's still so possible to have really delicious food by doing this. I literally refuse to eat in a way that doesn't feel good to me, that doesn't taste good, and I know it's possible to eat delicious food, not have all the overt fats, and still enjoy my food. All right, so moving along. Number 2 is to actually create a short list of all of your favorite foods. I recently just talked a little bit about this in one of my more recent videos, and this is really effective because a lot of times, we fall into these phases where we really just don't know what to eat for dinner. Even though we may have made something 1,000 times before, somehow we can just get into these mental blocks where we totally are lost about what to make. And when you're on a weight loss journey, that's kind of the last thing that you want to happen. You don't want to feel overwhelmed with what to eat or what not to eat. So I just find that it's super helpful to actually have it all written out. That can be in something as simple as a dollar store book, a piece of paper taped to your fridge, or, in my case, I do have my weight loss recipe ebook where I do refer back to that often, but I also have my go-to list, and that list is currently changing. If I get bored or sick of one food, then I'm gonna find a new one that I'm not bored or sick of. And here's a little tip, is that you don't need 1,000 different foods. You really don't. Actually, it's easier the less foods that you have on that list. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we have to eat the rainbow, like quite literally. Yes, we've heard eat the rainbow for health, but it's okay also if you just stick to, some staple foods that you actually enjoy and eat them on repeat. And specifically when it comes to weight loss, this is the way to go. Because once you start feeling overwhelmed, it just seems too much, too many ingredients, too much cooking, too much decision fatigue, you just don't know what to eat. All those overwhelming feelings are sometimes reason enough for us to just give up. I have learned to avoid those really overwhelming feelings by simply keeping track of my favorite foods. And I always stress that just because you're eating healthy or just because you're eating unprocessed and whole food plant-based, that doesn't mean that your foods need to be boring, bland, tasteless, choking them down type of meals. It doesn't have to be that way. All you need is a handful of your favorite recipes that you're like, okay, this isn't too bad, or I'm actually craving that, or looking forward to this. Those are the foods. Those are your go-to foods. So write them down and eat those on rotation until you have to swap them out for some new favorite go-to foods. I'm a list lady. I love my lists. I love having something to refer back to so that I don't have to think about it anymore. The list is there. I know what I like. I already put the work in beforehand and I know I'm good to go. So I would highly suggest giving this a try if you're not already doing that. Okay, number 3 on my list, that is something that I don't necessarily do every day, but I do every couple of days, and that is to prep that list that I was just talking about. So definitely when it comes to starches especially, starches take the longest to cook. So always having them prepped and ready to go allows you to throw together, an easy lunch or an easy dinner within 5 minutes, literally. And even the non-starchy veggies, if they are preppable, then prep those too. And what I mean is sometimes with non-starchy veggies, if they have too much water content in them, then they aren't always the best to prep in advance. But things such as carrots or any of your greens, your lettuces, your kale, your cabbages, sometimes even onions, garlic, stuff like that can be prepped in advance. Just whatever can be washed, chopped, and ready to eat. It's going to make your life easier. I actually put out a video not that long ago. I will have this linked in my description box below where I just showed a 4-ingredient prep because really that's all it needs to be. Sometimes we don't have time to do a major prep, and really if you just have your core ingredients that you'll be eating in these meals, especially the starch, then that's all it really requires sometimes. So trust me, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. I always make sure I've got my starches ready to go, and when possible, I also make sure I have those non-starchy veggies washed, prepped, and ready to go as well. All right, so number 4 on my list is to eat more non-starchy veggies, especially if you're struggling to lose weight. So this was a game changer for me because before in the past, I was really starch heavy and I was eating a lot of starch thinking that that's all I needed to do to get the weight off. But unfortunately for me, for my body, that didn't work out so well. So in fact, it didn't really ever allow me to lose any weight at all when I was eating like that. So instead, I ended up increasing my non-starchy veggies because non-starchy veggies are only 100 calories per pound. So you quite literally can eat as many as you want without ever having to worry about it affecting your weight loss. And you can't say that about too many things other than maybe water. So really use that to your advantage and use it as a strong weight loss tool. So if you're hungry, no need to have to eat less. You can actually eat more, but just make sure you're eating more of the right things. So I ended up switching my ways, and instead of consuming more starch or too much starch, then I consume a ton of non-starchy veggies. However I'm getting it in, I always make sure that there's a strong focus on a lot of non-starchy veggies at my meal. And that brings me to number 5, and that is that I only eat non-starchy veggies if I need a second helping. So some of the teachings before had me going back for starch if I wasn't fully finished after my first round. And that didn't work out for me because it just ended up being too many calories for what my body required. But since I switched that, and if I'm hungry now still after I finished, my first plate of food, now when I go back and if I have more salad, even if it's like a huge plate of salad, that has not affected my weight loss whatsoever. So it's pretty safe to say that you can actually eat as much as you want, or until you're comfortably full of the non-starchy veggies, and you're never going to really have to worry about putting on weight by doing that. I kind of look at it like this, starch is what keeps us full. So it is very important to get enough starch in your meal. Otherwise, you're going to be hungry, an hour later, because your body's going to burn off non-starchy veggies in no time at all. So it's just kind of this balancing act, where the starch is to keep you full and the non-starch is to fill you up. And when you find the sweet spot of both of those, then that's when the magic will happen. Okay, number 6 is to create one and done meals. Now, for those of you who have been following me for a long time, that expression one and done meals is familiar to you by now because I am a huge fan of them. So what I mean are just meals that, it's just one meal and you kind of have everything in that one meal and you are done with it. So my favorite one and done meals are my fiber protein shakes are one of them. Again, these shakes are not, just a light green smoothie or fruit smoothie that you're going to be starving very shortly after. If it's your first time landing on my channel and you don't really know what I'm talking about, I do have this video where I show 7 days worth of my fiber protein shakes that I've been drinking to get this weight off, but these shakes are designed to be calorie dense. They keep you full for hours because of the secret ingredient, which are beans in them. But don't worry, you don't taste the beans in them at all. I promise. They are absolutely delicious. But I love having these shakes because I can make them in like 5 minutes and then I'm full for like 3 or 4 hours. It's like no cooking required as long as you have your beans made, or if you're using canned beans, they're just super stupid easy and I love them. So that is what I would consider a one and done meal, or even a starchy salad. And I actually made this video here if you want to check out a starchy salad, how I make them. It's kind of a one and done thing because you throw in a ton of your starches as well as your leafy greens and your non-starchy vegetables, and you have this massive, gorgeous salad. We're not talking about a tiny little garden salad that, again, you're going to be starving like 45 minutes later or less. We're talking about a massive one and done starchy salad that's going to keep you full for hours. And by the way, it's a really great on the go type of one and done meal. And another great one and done meal are soups. I'm a huge fan of soups and I've been really eating a lot of soups again now that we're back into the cold winter months. But soups are an amazing one and done meal because you can even take a non-starchy soup and then just add your starch to it, whether that be potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, or rice, and then you make it into a starchy soup, which then becomes a one and done meal. So when it comes to my dinners or my lunches, especially if I'm not going to be home, then I love to focus on creating a one and done type of meal and keeping it as simple as possible. All right, so moving along, number 7 is to eat any food at any time of the day. And what I mean by this is just by simply removing labels, that we place over certain foods that, are only to be had at certain times, such as breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I let this go a long time ago, and it's made life so much easier when it comes to actually deciding what the heck to eat. Oatmeal is one that I've talked a lot about on my channel that, you can have oatmeal at any time of day. Well, in fact, you can have any food at any time of day, but we're going to use that as an example. A lot of times people would see oatmeal as just a breakfast food, when in fact, oatmeal's incredible. If you are in a hurry, if you're starving, if you don't have anything prepped, it's even something great that you can bring on the go with you if you have a thermos to keep it warm, or that you have somewhere that you could heat it up afterwards. But oatmeal takes all of 5 minutes to make. So it's one of the starches that actually don't require a lot of cooking time. So I have had oatmeal multiple times over the years for dinner, instead of having it for breakfast, or I've had it for lunch. My husband and kids would definitely co-sign on that because they've seen mommy have oatmeal at all different times of the day. I know these might seem like simple, maybe even funny little truths, but it's funny when we don't actually hear them or say them out loud, how we can get into that mindset that we can only eat certain foods at certain times. But I'm here to tell you that you have permission to eat any food at any time of the day. That's something that I've been doing, and it really creates a lot of food freedom. Okay, so that brings us to number 8, and that is creating an SOS snack list. Now, what I mean by this is already being prepared for when those snack cravings hit, or when you're genuinely hungry and you do need something to tide you over. Already have a go-to snack list so that you are less tempted to eat some other type of unhealthy snacks that you don't want to be eating while you're trying to get healthy and lose weight. My personal SOS list consists of things like teas, which I've actually really been getting into homemade herbal teas, as well as mocktails, as well as a green smoothie. If you want to check out my favorite green smoothie, I will have this video posted in my description box below. But I do make my green smoothies fairly low calorie so that I can have them at any time, including the nighttime, as well as my fiber protein shakes. I usually just have half the amount of the shake if it is being used as a snack, as well as any type of raw fruits and vegetables. So I've kind of got myself covered whether I'm wanting something hot, cold, sweet or savory. But I strongly recommend creating an SOS snack list because I feel like when it comes to snacking, that's the big one. That's the one that can get us into the most dangerous territory, especially on a Friday night or a weekend, or, if you're feeling stressed out or tired. It's just too easy to fall into the snack trap. So again, by having this SOS snack list, it just kind of takes, the overwhelming decision making out of the equation. And I feel like, especially when it comes to the snacking, it is really, really necessary. And that's how I manage my snacking so that I don't end up sabotaging all my efforts that I made throughout the day. All right, so number 9, this is something that I have incorporated just kind of recently into my life, but something that I do every single day, and that is to experiment and use fresh herbs. Now, you might be saying, like I wasn't expecting that one. Well, me neither, really. But let me tell you something. Fresh herbs are super underrated. We all know about, filling our spice cabinets up with all the wonderful spices that we buy at the grocery store, but I rarely hear people talk about the use of fresh herbs. And let me tell you, they are a game changer when it comes to adding a ton of flavor to our foods. And let's add to the fact that they're super, super nutritious for us, like really, really, really healthy for us, but they taste so darn good. So some of my favorite ones that I like to use are mint, basil, oregano, cilantro, parsley. And again, if you're not a fan of cilantro, usually, you can swap that out for parsley in a recipe, no problem, or vice versa. I'm a fan of both of them. And so I use both of them. But I feel like by incorporating those fresh herbs into my recipes, even into a salad, you can even throw it into a sandwich, you can throw it into a potato dish, just to have fun with it. It's funny because the way that I kind of see herbs is like, when you go to a fancy restaurant, an upper scale restaurant, and you're served this amazing dish of food. Oftentimes, it's the fresh herbs in that meal that sets it apart from something that you would have made for yourself at home. And we all, wow, this is so amazing. And really, it's just been garnished with a little bit of cilantro, or, the pasta dish is made using fresh herbs like fresh basil and fresh oregano. These herbs, I'm telling you, they will bring life to your food. They will bring the flavor to your food. So when people say that eating a whole food plant-based diet is, bland or tasteless, then that means you have not tried using fresh herbs yet in your meals. So if you're looking for a punch of flavor, just start experimenting with them. Throw different fresh herbs in different meals, and I promise you, you're gonna come back to me and be like, oh my gosh, you were so right. What a difference it makes. It can literally bring your meal from like a 7 to a 10. All right, so that brings us to number 10, and that is to eat before I leave the house and or bring something with me when I leave the house. This one was one of those lessons that I had to learn the hard way a few times. When you leave the house and you think you're gonna be okay because you'll be right back, or whatever we tell ourselves, and you're not. And you get caught out and you're starving and hangry and you don't know what you're going to eat, and then it just gets worse because as soon as you get home, you're ravenous, you might not have anything prepared, and it's just an easy setup to fall off track. So we want to avoid that if we can. So when I know that I'm leaving the house, especially if I'm going to be gone for a little while, I make sure that I don't leave hungry. So while at the same time I'm making myself something to eat before I leave, I'm also preparing something to take with me as well. Honestly, it doesn't even matter if it's just something small. Sometimes it's just one of my fiber protein shakes I throw in my bag, but guess what? I know that it's there. If I end up getting hungry, I have something. You do not want to be caught out super hungry when you're trying to follow an unprocessed, whole food, plant-based way of eating, and you're trying to lose weight. You want to do whatever you can to prevent yourself from falling off track. So eating before I leave the house or bringing some food with me has been monumental in keeping me on track to get this weight off. All right, everyone, so those are the 10 daily habits that I did pretty much every day to get 50 pounds off. So if you are struggling to lose weight, I highly recommend giving some of these a try to see if that helps to keep you better on track and to make your life just a little bit easier. There are a lot of things to weight loss. A weight loss journey is anything but linear. Anything. Believe me, I know. So the more that we can, set ourselves up to succeed, then just the easier and less painful it's going to be. And if you're also on a plant-based weight loss journey, I would love to have you stick around. I share all of my recipes, all of my tips and tricks of what I've done to get this weight off, and I still have about 25 pounds to go as well. So if you'd like to follow along the rest of my weight loss journey, then be sure to hit the subscribe button on your way out. And again, if you're in need of some more weight loss friendly recipes that are all oil-free, whole food, plant-based, then try to be one of the first 25 people and grab a copy of my ebook for only $5. The link is in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.